Hey everyone, we're back with another Talk with Maynard podcast. This week, or for this podcast, we're going to be talking about the designs of different cars throughout history, because car design lately seem to be kind of out of control, or car companies are really doing some crazy things at car design. This is the first podcast we've done in a few weeks, so I hope it's a good one.
Yep, we are finally back. Goal is to try to get one out every week, but as we said earlier this year, it can be difficult to do. So if we can at least cover half the weeks of this year, we're pretty happy with that. But we are glad to be back, and we are talking about car designs from the very early beginnings of cars up to the modern current age.
And the first design of cars we're going to talk about is cars from the 1910s, the teens, or whatever you want to call it. Cars during this era were really horse and buggy looking. They're basic and minimal and only had what you needed. A good example of this is a Model T. It just really looked like a basically a horse and buggy wagon is what it looked like.
And that's what they had. This was the point that they were beginning to learn to make cars. They took, just like you said, basically a horse and buggy and took the horse off and put an engine in it. Some of the early cars, earlier than the teens and the tens, were kind of a rudder steering design. So these cars were very, very minimalistic, very what you needed just to get from point A to point B, and that's what they knew how to do at that point, because at that point that's what they were building was horse-drawn carriages.
And the interesting thing is the very first car ever made was made in 1800 something, and it was made by Mercedes-Benz. It was called like the patent motor car or something like that, and it looked just like a horse and buggy carriage, and it had I think a 2-stroke engine, something like that. That moves us into the next, the 1920s. It featured, its first time cars had an enclosed cabin, a way to get you out of elements. The cars were lower and longer due to the paved roads being made. They were fairly boxy, and some of the cars, especially higher end cars, had huge 12 to 16 cylinder engines. A good example of these cars would be like the cars in the movie The Great Gatsby.
Yeah, the 20s kind of extension of the teens, but they're definitely changing and learning to put more features in the cars. They're getting less like a horse-drawn carriage and more, maybe not what we have today, but certainly heading that direction into more of a motor car and less of just a buggy with an engine on it. Model T was still the reign supreme during this time, but they have more and more models and more features even at that.
In the 1930s, cars started getting really curvy. They had lots of style, or really Art Deco looking. It's really starting to put some design and flair into things.
In the 30s, I think the 30s, 40s, and early 50s you can kind of group together. The 40s, during the early mid 40s, they quit making cars because of World War II. At least they did here in the States, and I guess in Europe for that matter, since that's where the war was. But they didn't change basic shape a whole lot. The 30s, you had the Model A in the Ford Flathead V8 engine. All of a sudden, you could get a V8 for the masses. But they were very, very artistic looking, very interesting looking up to the 30s to the early to mid 50s.
In the 50s, cars were real space age design. They had big fins, rocket tail lights. It's around the time of the space race, and they're just really inspired by space and rockets and things.
They were, and I look at, to me, 55 is probably a turning point in car design from the curvy cars from the 30s and 40s up to more boxy design, and then into a space design. Case in point, the 55 Chevy was was a big departure from what the 54 had been, and kind of the future, the direction things would go. It was still curvy, but much more of a boxy shape that we're used to seeing. And yes, the tail fins started emerging, and certainly by the late 50s, the tail fins were just outrageous. Like 59 Cadillac Eldorados were, I think, the biggest fins out there. And if you look at television programming from the late 50s, a lot of it about space. Go back and watch some of the old TV shows, and then you'll see it.
In the 1960s, metallic paints started coming out. Japanese imports are on the rise, and pony cars like the Mustang and Camaro started to appear. They're trying to reach out to the younger buyer of cars, give them something new, something different, something exciting.
And cars did continue to become more boxy, longer, wider, bolder, more comfortable, more features. But 60s were definitely what a lot of people feel like a golden age of automobiles. Muscle cars and big engines and big power plants and really the cars that most people to this day want and want to own and desire.
The 60s and early 70s had bold muscle car styles, Mopar especially. Ford had colors like Grabber Blue and Grabber Orange, Grabber Yellow. A lot of cartoon style going in the cars, just real bright, just kind of in your face the cars were.
Hey, the Plymouth Roadrunner, with the cartoon Roadrunner and the beep beep horn and that sort of thing. They were late 60s or definitely at psychedelic wild time, late 60s, early 70s. So very, very bold, very, very bright and out there. A lot of the cars were.
The 70s had understated compact designs. The Mustang II, the Pinto, the Gremlin, and Japanese cars are really starting to show.
Yep, and there's a reason for a lot of that. You know what that reason? A couple of those reasons are.
It's because of gas.
Gas and insurance regulations, things that killed the muscle cars, but especially the fuel crisis that happened in the 70s. All of a sudden, people didn't want to have those big engine, big cars, and so there were still a lot of big cars in the 70s. Don't get me wrong; they were a lot of land yachts. But there was a lot of smaller cars because people couldn't afford to drive those cars anymore.
Yeah,
they had to park them and go to these little small cars. The Japanese cars started to take over, so the Americans had to kick it in gear and find something to be competitive.
And they really didn't do too good of a job.
No, they didn't. They didn't. I mean, the 70s the cars are sort of becoming desirable. A lot of them are becoming desirable from the later 70s now, just for nostalgia. But the cars themselves weren't that great, and the emissions components were, they're on a learning curve again. So,
in the 80s, cars were really boring and boxy. Some people call it the year the color died. They focused more on safety and not design.
They were. I remember for the longest time you couldn't really buy a car that was green. You could buy like a pale yellow, but there weren't very many bright colors. I mean, you always had red, but a lot of those colors weren't out there, and they were big and boxy. And they did change some in the later 80s. The Ford Taurus came out and started giving a more aero design look, but there was 86 in the later 80s, but even with that, they were still pretty boxy cars for the bulk of the 80s.
In the 90s, cars became more curvy. Examples of this is like the Porsche 911 and the Mazda Miata. They just got really. They started finally gaining some life. Cars did again. It wasn't all boring and emissions, and it was getting a lot. They're trying to get better.
They did get better, and I kind of think of the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s as a point that horsepower started coming back finally. The 70s with the fuel crisis, kind of drove the design, but then drove the power plants, and you had trying to be as fuel efficient as possible, and finally late 80s, the Volkswagen Mustangs and the Corvettes and like the ZR1 and cars like that, all of a sudden things that we thought were completely gone when the 60s left us, we're starting to come back. We're finally getting interesting cars again.
Yes. In the 2000s, not a whole lot there, just SUVs really start to become a big deal. I don't really...
And the SUVs, you can trace that back, I think, to the Ford Explorer from the early 90s. That was a really popular vehicle. And during the 90s, they gained traction more and more, and by the 2000s, we're starting to see less cars and more people with no reason to have them, but other than the size inside, to drive SUVs everywhere. So.
In the 2010s, retro design was coming. They, like the Mustang, the Camaro, and the Challenger, they all kind of tried to go back to their roots on car styling, but tried to give it kind of a modern look. It seemed like a really big deal. Even cars that weren't known as much, they tried to do some retro, like classic old school styling with them. Some of them lasted, like the Camaro, the Challenger, and the Mustang, but some of them didn't, like the Thunderbird and a few other designs.
Well, and I was going to say that the cars that I can remember, and it sounds like being a Ford guy, but not so much, but the two cars that really kind of brought retro back, do you know what I think they were? You said one a second ago, the Thunderbird. I think 2003 when it came out.
Yeah, Thunderbird.
Had the old design. Then also the Ford GT came out for the 100th anniversary of Ford, and then 2005 when the Mustang came out their retro design, which lasted a long time, and then and you got in the teens and the Challengers and the Camaros. Everybody's trying to regain that late 60s style.
And that brings us to our first stopping point, our break in this podcast. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some of the designs today, especially the ones that we think are not very good,
not
just
too
really
good.
Ugly. But we'll be back with that. Hey everyone, I'm coming to you from my bed, the Project Maynard studio, to tell you that you need to check out my website, projectmaynard.com, to see everything about Project Maynard and the events that Project Maynard will be going to. Also, while you're on the internet, check out the Summary Saturday blog at projectmaynard.com/summary-saturday-blog to check out my blog where we talk about places and fight disability inequality. While you're on the internet, go to the Facebook page. On the Facebook page, Project Maynard posts anything from quotes to disabilities to cars, so there should be something for everyone to check out there. If you don't like Facebook, you can go to Instagram. You can go to Instagram to see all the same stuff, just in a different way. If you prefer Twitter, you can go to Twitter too, and you will see all the same stuff there. I know, really creative. So, you need to do that, and you need to check it out. Please. Hey everyone, we're back with the second half of this podcast talking about car designs. And in this half of the podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about cars that are like over designed or they're like I said, I think car design's kind of out of control. They're kind of losing control on it and trying too many crazy things. But I'll start with one of my cars I picked. I picked the Honda Civic Type R.
And these are cars that we really don't like the
we don't
design
like
of a lot because there's
some
designs
like
are kind of all over the map right now.
Yeah.
But they're almost 50-ish in a way and way too much over the top, weird looking stuff on a lot of cars.
Yeah, I was going to start with the Honda Civic Type R. Everyone was real excited for the Honda Civic Type R to come out because you're finally going to get it in the United States. So you didn't ever have the Type R in the United States. So people were real excited about it. And when they come out with with it, it's like it was almost cool, and then they kept going and going and going. Like the car has like 3 exhaust pipes in the back of it. I think they did too much big old like fake vents on the back of it and on the sides of it. They just really I think they really did too much when they did it. It's like it looks like it almost looked good, and then they just kept going and going and going. It's like, let's see how many weird things we can put on this car.
It reminds me a lot of, and you can do it today, but especially I think of the late 80s, early 90s, and having a pickup truck. And again, even today, you can put a few accessories on it and make it look good, or you can put way too many accessories on it and it really looks bad. Yeah, they put way too many accessories on it and made it look gaudy.
The front looks pretty okay, but really where they started over designing the back because they had the spoiler. So they didn't stop there, and so they put fake vents on it, and they didn't stop there, so they did 3 exhaust pipes. Of course, I think the exhaust pipe in the middle is like blow off for the turbos, but still they could have done something different. They just really went too far. So I'll let you discuss your next car.
Okay, well, I'm going to... Actually, 2 of my cars, I'm going to pick on Toyota. And that's pretty funny. You've got a Honda and a Toyota straight off here. But the Toyota I picked was the 2019 Toyota Avalon.
Let me look. I haven't seen it.
Overall, the car's not terrible,
Yeah.
but the front end is ridiculous. They put way too much grill on this car.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, nearly the whole front bumper is grill. and grills are important. That's how you get the cooling in today's engines with turbochargers and intercoolers. You need it. But it's an Avalon, and it is... I mean, from the side and from what I've seen in the back, it's not bad looking. See, the back is not bad.
Oh, yeah, kind of BMW
side,
looking.
yeah, that looks good, but the front end, the grill is just... It's here, look at this picture. All mouth.
Looks like a freaking catfish.
It looks like it's worse than a catfish Camaro.
Yeah.
If you know what that is.
And one of my cars in a little bit's gonna be kind of like that too. It seems like they're kind of getting way overboard on the grills and stuff on cars. I don't know what it is about a grill. I think it's the theme.
I'll let you do your next car because that's a big thing on mine, and you'll see my next car as well.
The next car, and it's a car everyone likes to pick on ever since it come out the way it looks. But really, it didn't. I don't think it was too terrible when it first came out. Now it's like, I don't know what they did.
It was what it should be when it first came out.
It
was what it should be.
Yeah, it's a Toyota Prius. I don't know. It's never been the greatest looking car or anything. But I don't know what they did. I don't know. It looks like Pikachu threw up on it.
It does. And what I meant when it should be. I mean, it was simple. It was efficient. It wasn't great looking, but it was minimal. That's what the car's supposed to be. And now, I don't know.
I don't know what they did, and especially the back. It's like it's real long and. I don't know. I don't know what they did. I'll have pictures of all these cars, of course, but
it's like they tried to make it look sporty, and kind of like the Type R. They overdid it.
Yeah.
They put scoops and spoilers and stuff in the wrong places, and It looks stupid.
Yes.
It just looks stupid.
Okay, your turn.
So my next car, and I say I was picking on Toyota here, and this car is the Lexus LS. And honestly, it's the entire Lexus line. If you look at their cars. Now hold on, let me get you a better picture of that because
I don't know. That's one of the cars I'd argue with Daddy on. I actually like the Lexus.
Okay, but so Lexus, which is made by Toyota, is Toyota's high-end car. They've done the same thing as the Avalon, and look at every car in their lineup. It is all grille.
Mm-hmm.
And this Lexus LS, I picked it out because it has this really odd cross hatch shape design thing to its grille, and I think it looks odd. Cody thinks it looks pretty good. Now, this is something we discussed just yesterday, I think. A lot of these cars that we don't like at the moment, well, 6 months from now or longer, shorter, we may really like them. We may look back at them and think, yeah, that was pretty good. Because sometimes it just takes time for a design to grow on you, and the designers, they put them out there because they know what people like, I guess. But the Toyota lineup and the Lexus lineup especially, there's too much grille. There's no design.
I think the Lexus grill, it's a lot of grill, but at least has some curve. Like if you ever see one, it's actually a lot of curve and shape to it. It kind of, I don't know.
And that's my holdup because the rest of the car looks good. Mm-hmm. The back, the side, it's a full size car, 4-door. It's a nice car, but the grill it's like they just screwed up, and again, it's a whole Lexus lineup.
Mm-hmm. So my next car is along with the kind of a grill thing. It's the new 2019 BMW X7. I don't know what they were thinking. I seen a picture the other day of it was like a thumbnail for another YouTuber's video, and he had an X7, and the grill is really big. He was holding like a BMW M3 grill next to it, and it was like you could fit 4 or 5 M3 grills inside the X7 grill. They really went crazy, and and that's really the only part that's really bad. It's a little funny looking in the back, but it's like the proportions of everything on the car is just too much.
And the grill, I mean, BMW's always been known for their kidney grill thing. Mm-hmm. Just the shape of them, and this has been the theme through nearly all their cars always. This thing is like they took it and they blew it out of proportion.
Mm-hmm. It looks like their kidney grill has kidney disease or something.
Kidney disease. It should have been on a Mack truck instead of an SUV.
Yeah, that's really
BMW 18-wheeler or something.
Yeah, it should have been.
So my last choice, and this is going to, I kind of hate. I'm not trying to pick on them, and everybody knows I'm a Ford guy, but I like all cars. Mm. I really do. But the new Silverados, the 2019 Silverado half-ton trucks are just, in my opinion, they really screwed up a nice design.
I need to see it
again. And the pictures maybe aren't as bad as what if you see one in person. Mm-hmm. They took the front end and made it really, really big, and the headlamps are odd. I think GM was trying to copy the F-150s in some ways. If you see the GMCs and the Silverados, the Chevy Silverados, they got the grill or the sides that come into the headlights like Ford did with the 2015 F-150s. And then even to the back end, they got them rounded off and scooped up, and they're just, in my opinion, odd looking. The 18 Silverados and on back to the mid 2000s were nice looking trucks. Mm-hmm. And I've always maintained that a lot of times the Silverados were better looking trucks than the Fords were. But this new design, it's like, I don't know, they took a really good thing and screwed it up. And the GMC Sierras are nice looking trucks still. Tailgates are weird with their new flippy foldy tailgates if you see them. Uh-huh. But the front ends look nice. But the Silverado, I don't know. It may take some time to get used to it, I guess.
And I guess that's another car I kind of argue with him with. is at first I thought it was kind of weird, but now I actually kind of like it. Especially I was watching a video the other day talking about the Silverado, and I seen he had a video of one driving, and I was like, well, I guess it's not that bad.
And I've seen a couple of them in person, and just even in person, they just, I don't know. It may just take some time.
It might.
But right now, I don't like the new Silverado.
Okay. I think they finally got some shape. They're kind of a block for so long,
And I guess that block thing I kind of like, especially like the truck we saw that was painted to be like a 70s Silverado. It was just really, I thought a nice design. So it may take some time. Mm-hmm. But those are 6 cars that we don't care as much for, that just the styling is too over the top, in our opinion.
And that's what we have for car designs, too. We're not by any means a car reviewer. We don't talk about car designs like some people do, but I hope you got a little something out of it.
Yeah, and in the current designs, if you like them, great. We're not trying to start an argument, just our opinions, strictly our opinions, and they may change a few months from now after we look at them more. Mm-hmm.
So that's it for this video. I've had several things change and happen since last. I got some new merchandise. I actually have a place I'm getting merch done from. There's one of the new hats. I got several designs on there.
First time there's been a Project Maynard Stang hoodie available.
First time.
So there's a new design if you're watching the video.
All the proceeds made off of the merchandise will be donated to Muscular Dystrophy Association or back into Project Maynard Stang so we can keep doing what we're doing. You can see the store by going to the Project Maynard Stang website, projectmaynardstang.com, and I'm gonna be adding new designs. There should be something everyone will like on there. So grab some merchandise and support Project Maynard Stang. Also, I might put some pictures up or something, but we got some new signs for our trailer and display with our car, Ugly Betty. And if you haven't seen our display, we have a trailer. We carry my power chair and Hoyer lift in behind the car, and it has signs with the Project Maynard Stang logo and website on it. And we actually got several sponsors. I will put them in a credit portion of this video. I don't have a list of them all with me right now.
We need to give them a shout out anyway. I think between we can figure out we have Shopee's Tech Service. Mm-hmm. We have Roy's Art, Roy Weeks. We have Denise Maggs Photography.
We have our tire store here in
Cameron
our
Tire
hometown,
Store. Cameron Tire Store. Don's Paint and Body here in Cameron, Texas. We have some of our clubs we're affiliated with sponsored us. The Cameron Car Club.
The Wildside Stang
Mustang Club, which is statewide. Traditions Car Club out of Killeen. Mm-hmm. Then we also had a couple other businesses here in town. Anderson 3 Real Estate.
Oh, yeah.
And Nomad Villages and Community Parks. Is that what it's called?
Yes, I think so.
So shout out to all our sponsors.
I don't remember the titles of all of it as good as...
Yeah,
I probably should have had a list or something, but
yeah,
anyway.
we'll put it in the credits.
They're all real good businesses and clubs and good people we know. So so we got that going on, and that should be it. The last thing to say is make sure to follow Project Maynard Stang on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're on all those social media platforms, and I try to post something every day on it.
And check out the YouTube channel, which this podcast will be on.
Project Maynard Stang.
Just Project Maynard Stang, and the website. Mm-hmm. And guess that's all we have for this week.
Yep, that's all we have. So we'll see you next time on Nerd Talk with Maynard podcast. Bye.
Bye.